What's up, everybody? What's happening? I know I've been off for a couple weeks and I don't have no explanation for it, but besides that, I've been working a lot. But I'm back with a new video. Today's video is going to be a quick video on a checklist of things that you should do if you're going to your first photo shoot, or you're shooting your first event or wedding or whatever your first shoot is. Let's hop right into it with number one. So the first thing I would suggest if it's your first photo shoot is for you to make a checklist of some sort, of maybe some ideas that you have or some locations that you're going to go to with your client, or some poses that might have popped into your mind, along with, most importantly, a checklist of all the gear that you plan to bring with you. If you need to write down that you need your camera, your lens, if it's video, microphone, lights, cables, all that stuff. For photography, you might need a reflector or a flash, extra batteries. You always need to bring some extra batteries with you. Things like that, you want to always have a checklist for what you need to bring and your ideas that you've come up with. Number two is, if possible, if at all possible, bring a helper with you. This is your assistant, the person that's going to hold the reflector if you may need it, and assist you with any other things. Also, that person might have some ideas that you can bounce off of each other. So it's always good to bring a helper. I always bring my niece Kylie. She's a great helper. She's been helping me since day one to this day, from my first paid shoot back in 2015, 16-ish till now 2019. So number three is to arrive to the location early. You always want to get there before your client so you can set up your camera, get everything adjusted how you want it, so when they get there you can just jump right into the photo shoot. You don't need to wait. Also, it gives you time to, scope out the location and see what parts you might like or what areas you might like. So always get there early. Set your stuff up. Now I want to talk about some photo how-tos. Once you've arrived at your location, your client's there, and you guys are getting ready to get in the shoot. If you've had some ideas of some things you want to know how to do, that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. For example, the first one is how to get a blurry background. To achieve this, you need a very fast aperture, and that's the little number on the front of your lens where it says f whatever. The f-stop is the number that's usually going to be 1 point something. If it's a prime lens, typically they're around 1.4 or 1.2 if you're paying a lot of money for an L series lens. If it's a zoom lens, they typically start around f2.8, which you can get a blurry background. Right now I'm shooting at f1.4, and you can see that my background is pretty blurry. You can make out that there's a window right here, but you can't really tell, what's going on back there. So that's how you get a blurry background. You want to drop that number, the f-stop, all the way down to the lowest possible number, which makes it faster because science. I don't have time to explain all of that, but that's how you do it. Next how to eliminate grain in your photos. If you start shooting and you notice that your photos look kind of grainy, to keep the grain down, you want to have a low ISO number, and you can find that button maybe on top of your camera, or you go through your settings. You'll see it on the off to the right now. I'm looking at my camera, it's off to the right side. It's got the ISO number right there. I'm shooting at ISO 800 right now because this is video, and 800 is good for the 6D Mark II. But if you're using an entry-level camera, usually when you get up into the 1600 and 3200 range, that's when you start to introduce grain or noise into your photos. So you want to keep your ISO around 100 if at all possible, and then maybe not go above 1600. You know, keep it low like that. If you're shooting with a full frame camera, you can play around with that and crank it a little bit higher because you have that ability. Next tip, if you're shooting handheld, your shutter needs to stay relatively high. So you want to keep your shutter speed up pretty high. That is the number that's 1/ and then another number. That's telling you how long it's opening and closing your shutter for. How many, whatever of a second it is. So 1/100 or maybe even 1/120th and up is where I say keep your shutter if you're going to be shooting handheld, because the lower you bring that down, the more you introduce motion blur into your photos. So it's going to catch you shaking. Maybe you nervous and you're shaking, pressing the shutter button, you might get some motion blur in there, and you don't want blurry photos like that. Blurry background, yes, but not blurry photos. See what I mean? We're in focus here. But that is how you reduce motion blur. Keep your shutter speed relatively high. I would say 1/120th and above, unless you're doing some type of photography that calls for a slow shutter speed, like long exposure photography, cityscape, waterfalls, really, mostly waterfalls. But yeah, so yeah, handheld, high shutter. Next tip, always check your white balance. You don't want to be shooting outdoors on a sunny day and you look down and your white balance says fluorescent lights, as if you're shooting indoors under a fluorescent light bulb. So make sure you change your white balance to whatever conditions you're shooting in, whether that be cloudy or daylight. There's an option for daylight, fluorescent, tungsten lights. Always check that stuff. There should also be an option for you to do a manual white balance, which it's in temperatures of Kelvin. The closer the number gets to like 7,000, the warmer it makes your photos, so the more yellow it is, and the closer you go down towards 4,000, the cooler your photos will be, so it makes it more blue. So you want to be adjusting that. If you're going to use the manual setting, make sure you focus in on something. I don't have anything white, but something white in the scene, and adjust it until that something looks white through your viewfinder or whatever. Last tip, use continuous shutter to ensure that you don't miss a shot. And what I mean by that is your camera will have an option in your settings, if you press the little Q on the menu thing, for you to adjust your shutter, to single shutter, which means you click and it'll click, or it'll have continuous shutter, which means you can hold down the shutter button and your camera will just continue to take photos. I like to keep my camera on this mode because it ensures that I don't miss a shot. For example, if I'm shooting with a couple, which is my favorite thing to shoot with, by the way. I love couples. I love. But if they happen to do something funny, I don't want to take a picture and then that's all that the camera does, and they keep going, you know, with it. I want to just keep click to make sure that I get that shot that I'm looking for. Also, if you're shooting something like sports, which is high speed, fast action, you want to have it on continuous shutter. That ensures that you don't miss a shot as well. Also, the last tip that I have is to have fun. You know, don't be stiff, because the more you have fun with it, the more your client will have fun with it. You want to try to make them feel as comfortable as possible shooting with you, and because they're going to be just as scared as you probably are. Be comfortable, relax, remember that they're nervous too, and try to make them feel comfortable, and you just have fun with it. That's gonna do it for me today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like comment down below. Let me know how your first photo shoot experience has gone in the past, or if you're about to do one. Let me know that this helped you any. Also subscribe, because you know new content is always coming, and hit the little notification bell so you get notified when I post new videos. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.